All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the pre-market rundown here for April 20th, 2023. This being our daily session where we go over any and all information necessary to keeping you consistently profitable here across these markets. I'm your host, Adam Holland, stock options expert, as well as expert market strategist. And we're here to dive into everything important to know about today, right? We're in the middle of earnings season. We've got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of data, being dropped. So it's important to stay on top of that. We've had a wonky market. So making sure that we're here each and every day to pregame that market is very, very important, right? Very instrumental to continued success in markets. We had a crazy day in markets yesterday. Still managed to be a profitable day, right? Based off of some great execution, right? Some great analysis and some great execution. And that's really all that you can look for during, earnings season. You really just have to kind of play light, right? Take what you can get. If you've got good profit, lock it down and then keep it pushing. But the market will show you what you have available to get. The market will show you based off of its movement. Okay, hey, I need to adjust and start taking profit earlier. I need to start playing lighter, right? The market will show you how you need to adjust. It's just whether or not you listen. But in terms of this week, it's been some crazy movement, but we continue to push forward, right? We continue to press forward and continue to make money, right? Which is obviously the major goal, right? That's why we're all here. So yesterday we had a nice, very profitable day, and we're looking to kind of continue to navigate these waters here as we move into the latter half of the week. Let's see what else we got going on here. Just pulling up everything. Okay, we got our headlines, everything. Oh, that's funny. I didn't even notice. Of course, the top headline is 420 related, like marijuana related. I honestly did not even notice. But I guess happy 420, for those that participate. Do you. As always, I don't discriminate. As long whatever it takes you to be in the right mindset to make that money in markets, you go ahead and get it done. In terms of kind of before we hop in, you guys know the drill. We're here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to get 1% better by the end of this session. So make sure you throw those ones in the chat, whether you're watching live or watching via replay, right? Signifying your intention to get 1% better. That's all we are looking to do. So make sure that you're looking to do that, right? You set your intention to do that, and that same intention, that same ferocity, that same sincerity, you come into the market with, right? At 9:30, it's only less than an hour off, right? Where we get that bell ringing, and it's go time, right? So you need to make sure that you're in that mindset now, right? Whether you're working out, praying, journaling, whatever you need to do to get your mind right? Do that before the market opens, and then we culminate all that here with our pre-market prep session. Now, in terms of diving into our headlines today, like I said, the first one, top news, 420. It's that time of year again when the budding when the budding marijuana legalization conversation lights up on the federal level. It's actually been going on for quite some time and witnessed some momentum last year with the introduction of the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act in the Senate and the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act in the House. While there are still some headwinds to the measures being pitched on Capitol Hill, President Biden did ask the DOJ and HHS in October to, quote, review expeditiously how marijuana is scheduled under federal law. Now, backdrop, when state and federal laws conflict, the latter preempts the former as per Article 4 of the Constitution. However, the 10th Amendment, as interpreted by the Supreme Court, outlines that the federal government cannot, quote, commandeer the state, meaning cannot force states to arrest cannabis sellers or users that comply with their own state laws. In turn, states also cannot block the federal government from enforcing their laws either. As a result, federal agents could be dispatched to make arrests within states if there is a will to and the resources were available. But in recent decades, sentiment has turned with regard to weed's place in society. So that was very confusing in terms of like an explanation and them giving backdrop, right? So it's like typically when state and federal laws conflict, state laws win out. It says right now that the Supreme Court outlined that federal governments, cannot commandeer the state, meaning it can't force arrests within the state. However, states can't block federal government from enforcing their laws either. So federal agents could be dispatched to make arrests within states if there is a will to. So it's kind of like where do we find ourselves at the end of that, right? It seems like if the federal government wants to do something bad enough, they still have the room to do it. But as of right now, it seems like the states are the ones that are in control, and the federal government doesn't really care that much to come in and crack down unless it like is a big kingpin or something like that. So that's kind of looking like where we're at now, but it is quite confusing. They're like, oh, the states have the power, but also the federal government has the power if they want to have it, and if they have the will to, and the means to. So it's like I don't really know what to do with that information, but I'm also not involved in that sector, so it has no effect on me. Oregon led the efforts toward decriminalization in 1973. California kicked off medical marijuana in 1996, and recreational weed even became legal in Colorado and Washington in 2012. As of today, pot is now legal recreationally in nearly half of U.S. states, though it still remains a Schedule I drug under the Controlled Substances Act of 1970, which is absolutely insane. Like marijuana should not be classified anywhere in that. There are so many people that are wrongfully imprisoned for selling weed that like it just gets me in a whole mood talking about it. And then they have articles that are written, suburban mom is a hero for starting her, cannabis company to relieve suburban anxiety. And it's like, you put someone's cousin in jail for the same thing, right? So it's just like, don't do that. So I mean, the Controlled Substances Act of 1970 is just absolutely outdated and just so messed up. But again, I'm not in the legal profession or anything, so but at the end of the day, right, it's just something to definitely take a stance against, because it's just like it can't be where we have this double standard, but it exists, unfortunately, in a lot of places. The illegal classification on the federal level makes it complicated for companies to operate within their own state borders, as many business activities and banks are regulated by federal law, as well as taxes, trademarks, and legal processes like bankruptcy. So that's what makes it tough. It also makes there be opportunity. It's just you don't know how long the opportunity will be around, right? How long until marijuana is, decriminalized on the federal level? I don't know. And the thing is, until that happens, there's a lot of opportunity for banking, right? So if you're a private bank that specializes in marijuana companies, then you can hold marijuana companies' money. That's a big issue with marijuana companies, is they don't have a lot of places to store their money, because banks, right, are they operate at the federal level. So they can't legally take money from marijuana. So a lot of times they have to deal with private banks. So if you're somebody who's a private bank, right, that can be very lucrative for you, because all of the marijuana money can come to you. Um, so that represents kind of some of the opportunity, the business opportunity that lies within that sector, due to the restrictions that are currently in place. In terms of outlook, despite economic uncertainty and rising inflation, cannabis market research firm BDSA expects legal U.S. cannabis sales to grow by 14% to 36.5 billion by the end of 2023. For investors trying to gain exposure to the sector, check out the latest Seeking Alpha analysis and news on multi-state operators like Cresco Labs, Curaleaf, Green Thumb Industries, and Trulieve Cannabis. Cannabis-related ETFs also include the Advisor Shares Pure Cannabis ETF called YOLO, and funds like the ETF MG Alternative Harvest, which is called MJ, because of marijuana. I doubt that I had to spell that out. But YOLO and MJ, right, two ETFs that are related to marijuana. All the rest of those, aren't really publicly traded here in the U.S. But there are a number of different like cannabis companies, so you can go ahead and look them up. But again, you gotta evaluate. Okay, based off of the charts, does this look like there is short-term, medium-term, long-term opportunity? Just because it's 420 does not mean the weed stocks are going to run, right? I feel like that is logic that you come to. Based off of you indulging in marijuana, right? Oh, it's 420. So if I'm high, then the stocks for marijuana have to be high, right? That's not the case at all. It's just you being high, right? So don't go and dump a whole bunch of money into Tilray or something like that. That was one of the companies I was pulling for. Tilray, TLRY, right? That was a cannabis company that flew up and then went down. Just because you're high does not mean that the cannabis stocks have to go high, right? Because y'all would not believe some of the DMs I get, and I'm like, no, that is not what I said, right? Just clear this up. Yeah, Alicia said a game of you can't tell me what to do with the states and the federal level. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, look, man, I'm gonna just make sure at the end of the day, nobody can come after me, right? I'm focused on stocks. And when I need, relief, I just sit there and hang out. So ain't nobody coming after Adam Holland Educates or whatever we built here, whether it's on the state or on the federal level. Y'all can rest assured I'm gonna keep my stuff in order so I can keep showing up here for the pre-market prep, for the Thursday Q&As, and everything else, right? In terms of earnings, margin miss, shares of Tesla fell 7% after the bell on Wednesday, after lower pricing and high expenses contributed to a margin miss. The company will continue to prioritize sales growth ahead of profit due to the EV price war and macro challenges in the economy. That is an extremely important point, Elon Musk said on the earnings call. We're like laying the groundwork here, and it's better to ship a large number of cars at a lower margin and subsequently harvest that margin in the future as we perfect autonomy. He also noted the energy storage business had its best quarter ever and even managed to pick a fight with Microsoft after Q1 earnings. I think that's very important. The battery business, the energy storage business from Tesla is going to be huge, right? It could arguably be as big as what Tesla is, right? The vehicle company, because when you set up the infrastructure for the future, it it pays you, right? Again, space travel, the next frontier. He has monopolized that with SpaceX, and in terms of setting up the grid, setting up infrastructure for electric vehicles, setting up batteries, right? Everybody wants to be solar, use alternative energy. We're going to need somewhere to store that energy, right? We're going to need somewhere to store it. Batteries is the answer to that, right? So I think that's very cool. Also, that little bit about the energy storage business that probably flew under the radar, but that is one of my favorite things about Tesla moving forward. And I'm not a Tesla maxi. I give a lot of disclaimers, right? I'm not a Tesla maxi. I don't wake up and, uh, I don't know, light a candle to a picture of Elon Musk every morning. But that is something that I do like about Tesla, because he just always seems to be focused on something that even through the tumultuous nature of what's happening right now, focused on, all right, the long term, how do I make myself invaluable in this world, right? And that's really what he's focused on and what he's been able to do. Of course, with a big company like Tesla, right, that can affect a lot of different major averages, right? That's why with QQQ, SPY, right, yesterday, it's like, all right, take that profit, lock that profit down because we have earnings, and we have earnings on big companies, and that can affect these major averages, especially something like Tesla, which is pretty heavily weighted. So as a result, you could say it was a result of Tesla, but we're weak anyways, right? We've been in this ascending channel for a bit, for a number of sessions, and eventually what happens, you break in the direction, or excuse me, in the opposite direction of that channel. So that's really what you're waiting for in order to go short, in order to get puts. Yesterday was not that day. Today might be that day, right? So we could have exhausted the last of the bulls, and then now is the time where we actually start selling off. If that's the case, awesome, right? We'll be prepared and ready for it. But I see here that we've got, QQQ, which was in the channel. We got it losing that channel. It might lose it. We don't know. SPY at this point, trying to hold on to yesterday's hourly low. We'll see if that still ends up being the case or if we get that sell off. But regardless, right, we will be prepared. That's the main thing. But it further underscores how important it is to take profit, right? Take that profit, lock it down, take that 10%, that 20, that 30, that 40, right? Take that profit, lock it down, don't look back, because overnight, right? It's like they say, Game of Thrones, the night is long and full of terrors. And overnight, each time when it looks like we're going to drop, we pop. Each time it looks like we're going to pop, we drop. And you've got earnings thrown in all over the place as well. So with these companies, with the market already being weak and, not really being able to figure itself out, when we have people like Tesla that are missing on earnings, that can definitely affect things, right? So as we talk about sentiment heading into the morning, yes, Tesla is going to affect things, but if we do sell off, everyone's going to say, oh my God, the market sold off because of Tesla. We've been in this kind of ticking time bomb where we're in an ascending channel, right? When you're in that channel, eventually what that means is that the buyers, right, if the channel is going up, the buyers are losing steam, right? The buyers are losing steam, and eventually you're going to break the bottom of that channel and sell off, right? So at the end of the day, this channel is going to break, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, whatever. It could be Tesla that causes it. If it continued this week, it could be Apple or another big tech company that reports next week that causes it, right? Or it could be nothing that causes it. It just falls out. But I think it's important to recognize what is happening, why that happens, and then that way you don't conflate issues, right? Correlation does not equal causation. Just because you go outside and you stub your toe, and then somebody gives you a free sandwich, does not mean every time you stub your toe, someone will give you a free sandwich, right? right? But people make those correlations in the market all the time. They think, oh, Tesla dropped, so the market has to drop big. There are plenty of times when Tesla's dropped and the market has not dropped, right? So if the market does sell off big today, it's not necessarily because of Tesla. It's because we were already losing strength, showing bearish divergence in a number of different sectors, right? And we are in this channel where we're just waiting to lose the bottom of it, right? So this could be the straw that broke the camel's back, but that doesn't mean that every single camel should be afraid of straw the next time it sees it, right? So if that makes sense. Throw a 3 in the chat if that makes sense here this morning. Let's see here what else we got going on in terms of economic news. Debt drama. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has introduced a bill that would raise the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion, along with limited federal spending, which would be enough to avert a default at least until March 31st, 2024. The quote Limit, Save, Grow Act, which is set to undergo a House vote next week, is estimated to cut budget deficits by $4.5 trillion over the next 10 years by bringing discretionary spending back to 2022 levels and capping future spending growth at 1% per year for the next decade. Quote, COVID funds, student loan forgiveness, and energy regulations are also part of the proposal. Quote, President Biden has a choice: come to the table and stop playing partisan political games, or cover his ears, refuse to negotiate, and risk bumbling his way into the first default in our nation's history. Woo, talk about not pulling any punches, declared McCarthy. Quote, if Washington wants to spend more, it will have to come together and find savings elsewhere, just like every single household in America. I mean, he ain't wrong. You know, he ain't wrong. If you want to spend more, you got to figure out where it's coming from. Sorry, I need to get that protein shake in. So, in terms of global news here, emerging markets. Sorry, trying to make sure I don't have like any blueberry or anything left on me. Emerging markets, the trophy of the world's most populous nation is changing hands, according to fresh estimates from the UN, which pegged the population of India at 1.4286 billion in mid-2023 compared to 1.4257 billion in China. The growth story in India, where half the population is under the age of 30, is already on the radar of emerging market investors, with Seeking Alpha contributor Macro Tips Trading pointing to the iShares MSCI India ETF, ticker INDA, for boosting exposure to large and mid-cap Indian equities. In the short term, India is benefiting from access to discounted Russian oil, which has allowed the economy to grow rapidly with relatively less inflation than others. And in the long term, India is forecast to become a manufacturing alternative to China. This is everything we've been talking about on the pre-market rundowns. Any session you see me on for the past 2 years, been mentioning India, right? India. And it's exactly for these reasons. So you're starting to see this narrative pick up, this story pick up. I'm sure everybody's seeing all over Instagram, Tim Cook over there in India at the first, store that they're opening up. You had that Indian guy that brought the original Macintosh computer and everybody shaking hands and woo woo, rah rah, India. This is why, right? At this point, India has more people than China, marginally, but roughly equal to / more people than what they have in China. And at more than half the population is under 30 years old, right? So this is like prime working, prime emerging, economy type of area that just big tech froths over, right? Big companies froth over this. There are all these people that are coming of age that want technology. They want these big brands in there. They want to work for them. And they're looking to take advantage, right? So again, India is the new China. India is benefiting. Again, like I said beforehand, they don't care about Russia invading Ukraine, which is kind of messed up. But at the end of the day, right, American tech companies are still taking advantage of that. They're like, oh, we don't really care that you don't care because we're about our bottom line also. So India said, yeah, sure, we'll take your discounted Russian oil. We got no beef, right? They're not, they have no allegiance to us, right? So India is like, they're taking advantage of war, and plenty of countries have done it. The U.S. did it, right? World War II, we waited until everybody was super, super weak and owed us a ton of money, and then we joined the war. They try and make it out to be a heroic thing. We waited until everybody was starved and bankrupt, and then we dove into the war and said, hey, we'll help you. And guess what? You all owe us a crap ton of money. That's how the dollar became the U.S. reserve currency, right? Because we took advantage of wartime. So whenever people were like, oh, we need this, we need that, like, a lot of things that came about for the status quo came about in a really crummy way, right? So when we look at India, it's tough. People are like, how can India just buy this discounted Russian oil? I'm sure we've done worse, right? Everybody's got their own stuff. That's why you just got to worry about you. If you're worried about, the integrity of the world, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Worry about your own integrity, focusing on protecting you and yours, and you'll be well off. But at the end of the day, everybody's doing what's best for them, if they're a nation or not. And right now, India, again, one of the biggest bets, biggest economic bets of the future. They're all being placed on India. So let's see here. Well timed. Tim Cook was in India this week to open Apple's first store and meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi as the company aims to build out a consumer base and expand its production footprint. So in terms of today's markets, mixed bag. We're back to the mixed bag, right? In Asia, Japan, we're up 0.2%. Hong Kong, we're up 0.1%. China down 0.1%. India up 0.1%. London, we're down 0.2%. Paris down 0.5%. Frankfurt down 0.9%. The Dow, we're down 0.9%. S&P, 0.4%. S&P were down 0.7%. NASDAQ were down a full percent. NASDAQ down the most, I think, out of all of them. Crude oil down 1.8%. Gold up 0.3%. Bitcoin down another 1.1% to 28,838. Today's economic calendar, we got initial jobless claims at 8:30 a.m. So that's something to take a look at here. We get home sales at 10 a.m. We've got Waller, who's a member of the Fed, speaking on financial innovation at noon. We've got Mester speaking on economic policy and outlook at 12:20. Does that end up affecting things? Not sure. I'd be more worried about the 12:21, speaking on economic and policy outlook. But overall, I'm not expecting Mester to be a market mover. Knock on wood, right? Because right at the time you say, oh, this isn't going to do anything, is when, somebody takes that as a personal affront to their influence, and then they start, just spewing very inflammatory rhetoric. So don't get, offended here, President Mester, if you watch this, since you're obviously a very big pre-market prep person. Don't get offended when you watch this if you think that if I say that your words don't move markets. Now, let's see what we got here going on in terms of the jobless data. Okay. All right. So U.S. jobless claims up 5,000 to 245,000. Survey 240K. So we expected 240K jobless claims, and we had 245K. That is bullish for markets. You want more jobless claims than expected because, of course, that means that the Fed might have to reconsider their hikes because the employment, sector is showing cracks. So you want worse than expected jobless numbers if you are bullish. So we'll see. We'll see if those jobless numbers can help the selling that has occurred overnight. Might be able to, might not, right? But we'll have to wait and see if that ends up kind of really, really causing any type of material change here in terms of the movement. So in terms of open, right, we could make our way right back into that channel for QQQ. We got to get over 317 on the hourly. If we don't get over 317 on the hourly, right, tech can go ahead and head back lower. SPY looking a little bit stronger there than QQQ, but still trying to keep, just struggling to stay alive here. So we'll see, right? We'll see what ends up developing here in terms of that situation. I was focusing on QQQ's channel a little bit more yesterday, so I'll go ahead and see where SPY's is at this morning. Now, in terms of finishing up here, we'll close out with our rapid-fire bullet point rundown. U.S. Supreme Court extends pause on abortion pill curbs until Friday. Bed Bath & Beyond, ticker BBBY, moves as traders bet on bankruptcy versus survival odds. AT&T, ticker T, earnings preview, optimism or macro headwinds. Margin improvement boosts IBM's, ticker IBM, first quarter report. Seagate, ticker STX, to pay $300 million penalty for shipping Huawei hard drives. Wow. Job cuts that Disney is planning will land at ESPN unit. So watch out, ESPN. They got some job cuts coming your way. Morgan Stanley, ticker MS, earnings beat on strong trading revenue. Economic activity barely budged. That's according to Fed's Beige Book. Abbott, ticker ABT, sales grow on medical services amid COVID test slowdown. And then ChipWatch, ASML falls after earnings. TSM outlook disappoints. So Taiwan Semiconductors outlook disappoints. We mentioned them, right? In terms of kind of like, what's going on with China possibly affected them in a negative way. It's funny because they missed and they're still up here pre-market, right? So that's just, again, how the cookie can crumble when we start talking about earnings, right? It does not matter if you win, if you beat, if you miss, you can get whatever reaction that comes as a result, right? But I think it's very important, again, as we go into markets today, to keep our eyes open. Go back through the reels on Adam Holland Educates on Instagram. They're there for a reason. That channel trading reel, right? If you took that into account, you say, okay, I'm going to start looking for channels. You were able to identify what made us a ton of profit yesterday, right? Which made us profit on a number of different tickers. Apple, ooh, excuse me, sorry, too much hand moving, but we had Apple, right? QQQ, SPY, a number of different tickers that paid us, and it was based off of the identification of that channel, right? So, especially during times in which there is, tough movement to take advantage of, you've got to make sure that you have all these different experiences in your memory banks, right? So, don't just sit there and say, oh, cool animations, Adam. I need you to sit there and watch those reels and understand what I am saying, right? Watch them, even if it takes multiple times. Understand what is being said, right? Go back to my story from yesterday, rewatch exactly that breakdown of what I saw, right? What we did, how we executed, and that can help you execute moving forward. So we had a great day yesterday, looking to also take advantage of whatever the market gives us today. What's most important is just being nimble, right? Being nimble, see profit, take profit, make sure that if the market pivots, you can pivot, and just don't focus on getting lost in your emotions. Don't overtrade, don't revenge trade. The market owes us nothing. We come there each and every day seeing what we can get, and then we leave, right? Don't get greedy. Pigs get slaughtered, right? So we're focused on executing, taking quality setups, making sure that we are understanding the different things the market can throw at us, and then acting based off of that, right? But an absolute smash day yesterday in terms of analysis and avoiding that bear trap, because they baited heavy with the bear trap, and there were a lot of people bearish coming into the day, right? We were read around the globe. You could not ask for a better excuse to be bearish, and yet we identified the trap, circumvented the trap. So not only did we avoid losing money, but made money. That is absolutely huge. I won't undersell that to anybody because I've been doing this for a long time. And, being able to do something like that, that's when you sit back, you're like, man, this is why you put in that 10,000 hours, right? This is why you put in that time necessary for mastery. Because then you can look and identify, oh, I don't like this, right? Let's move. And that's not to say that it'll happen every time, right? Because there are times when I miss something and I go back and I'm like, this is what it was. But that is the building block in the future for when I do identify it, right? And then I'll get mine then. So just focus on the positives, right? Positivity, and continue to be out there trying to recharge, trying to identify patterns, trying to identify potential traps, right? Get those reps in, because that's the only way you get better. And we're looking to get 1% better each and every day. So as always, if you enjoyed anything from this session, just show love to the account, right? The YouTube shorts, the Instagram reels, the TikToks, all that good stuff, right? Show love, like, comment, save, send to your friends. People want to know how to put food on the table. This is a great way to make your money work for you, right? Other than that, have a great rest of the day. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning for our next pre-market prep session. Have a good one.